Hi there everyone, I'm Daniel Craig from the Tasmania Fire Service. I work in the Building Safety Unit. Thank you for the invitation to present to you today, and sorry I can't be there in person, but hope to join you for some Q&A at the conclusion of this. So it's intended that this session will outline the TFS position on minimum requirements for distilleries, bond stores and the like, and to ensure an appropriate level of fire safety is achieved for occupants and responding firefighters. I guess it's worth noting also that things do go wrong. That's why we've still got a job. So what is the position of the Tasmania Fire Service? In the context of the buildings that we're talking about today, the TFS are a reporting authority for special fire hazard buildings, and there's a director's determination for special fire hazard buildings which was produced in 2016 and includes reference to distilleries in that determination. Why the TFS are involved as a reporting authority really just comes down to us being able to, I guess, both determine and also articulate as part of the design and approval process if what's intended to be installed actually is going to meet our operational requirements, should we have the need to intervene or there a fire occur at the building. There are a couple of unique clauses or provisions in the building code that I guess relate specifically to special fire hazard buildings. One includes specification E110 or clause E110 that relates to the water supply. This is particularly relevant because of the nature and quantity of the flammable goods or the materials stored in the building. I guess the general provisions in the building code, in our view, don't adequately capture this type of environment. Rather, it's dealing with, I guess, what you call a general or a generalisation of a building that might be used for some kind of storage. And also E2.3 may in certain circumstances have some relevance, whilst less prevalent than the firefighting water supply. E2.3 talks about some smoke hazard management. So generally, we're talking about all the larger buildings that may require sprinklers or something else to assist us in suppressing a fire. I guess when it all boils down, the building code is considered a fairly crude instrument in some ways that tries to pigeonhole, I guess, a group of buildings and capture every single permutation a building can take. I guess in our view, distilleries pose us some unique challenges. But also you'll probably find anyone that's been through the building approval process that there's probably some inconsistency with how they're being considered by building surveyors and the like. I guess when it all boils down, I guess the best advice we could give is for you guys to engage some specialist advice and I guess have a fit for purpose fire safety strategy for your building, which then translate to, I guess, the fixed fire protection features that we may utilise or have to utilise should a fire occur. Under the Building Act 2016, as it relates to Tasmania, all new buildings must be designed to achieve compliance with the National Construction Code, or the BCA or Building Code, it's probably commonly known as. Section 98 of the Building Act requires a building surveyor to determine whether proposed works are likely to comply with the Building Act, and further goes on to require the building surveyor to review whether any other permits, consent or orders from any other act may apply to the works. It's our understanding that in January 2013, Tasmania adopted the harmonised workplace health and safety legislation that was developed by WorkSafe Australia. And the work health and safety legislation in Tasmania generally requires workplaces to reduce risk, introduce and maintain appropriate controls for hazards and provide adequate administrative procedures for workers. So what does this mean for you? Again, it's our understanding that the work health and safety legislation would deem that a distillery, bond store and the like would be a workplace. And to meet this obligation, business owners can choose to adopt a code of practice that relates specifically to the work practice. Safe Work Australia has published a model code of practice for managing risks of hazardous chemicals in the workplace, The Code of Practice does reference AS 1940, Part 1, 2017, which contains various provisions for fire safety and firefighting. For certain buildings and dangerous goods, it also requires a hazardous area classification, particularly as it relates to explosive atmospheres. So what are the TFS obligations? Our obligations are to protect life, property and the environment. So in simple terms, I guess that translates to us being able to undertake search and rescue, to limit fire spread upon arrival to hopefully either the area of origin or the building of origin, and prevent further fire extension to any exposures. And I guess when it comes to the environment, that can include, contaminated water runoff from firefighting operations and the like, but also containing any spillage, so we'd sort of liaise fairly closely with the EPA in that regard. Also under our Act, we have to determine cause and origin of fire, which is obviously only done once the fire has been completely extinguished, and we can do our formal investigation. So what things are in place that can help us to meet these obligations are hazardous chemical signage, which will give us information on, firefighting tactics, required PPE, appropriate fire extinguishing mediums, whether that be water or foam and other bits and pieces. Any bunding to the building, which might help contain liquid spills and or runoff. Appropriate ventilation in the building can also greatly assist us in firefighting intervention, but also limiting the explosive atmosphere or flammable vapours. Good housekeeping is always a good way on, helping us to intervene should a fire occur, but also avoiding our attendance in the first place. Where possible too, another ideal strategy is physical separation between buildings. Ideally you may not necessarily have your distillery and bond stores even on the same site, just to minimise your risk, but also our amount of fuel load on the site and or exposures that we need to somehow take care of should a fire occur in one of those buildings. So I guess physical separation can include either via fire-resistant construction and or by physical distance. And pre-incident planning is something that the fire service do primarily with buildings that are on direct brigade alarm to us. So we will come out to the site and include, critical infrastructure, things that we utilise. So, the location of switchboards, gas shut-offs, isolation valves for the firefighting water supply, where the manifest is, what quantities of goods are kept on site and where and in which buildings, which help us with our tactics should a fire occur at the site. A lot of that information can also be kept on site, and we commonly see that in the little red box at the main gate or something similar that will contain that information. But for those premises that are on direct brigade alarm, we'll also have that information available to us electronically on a tablet or iPad or something similar when we're responding. Depends on which area, of course, your building is built. So when it comes to new buildings, extensions of existing, alterations to your production, what information do we actually need and why? As a minimum, we'd expect there'd be some engagement with fire safety engineers and a risk assessment being undertaken. Our expertise in dangerous goods is fairly minimal. So we need to, properly understand what it is that you're doing at your site. What are the risky elements when it comes to your process or undertaking, and how those issues are being managed, and then what fire safety features or measures are in place to mitigate those. The fire safety system designs is pretty crucial in terms of us being able to determine, if they're likely to meet our operational requirements. So we'd be looking at the locations of fixed fire protection systems, including hydrants and the like, to determine If they meet our operational requirements, obviously we'll be providing feedback on if there's locations that would be better suited due to prevailing winds or I guess other alternatives. I guess while we're talking about that also, if you have the opportunity when you're designing any of these new facilities, having more than one point of access is always a benefit, because we can't always dictate what the weather's going to be doing, or prevailing winds or radiant heat or anything like that might actually prevent us from entering the site. So if we've got another option, that's always a benefit to us. Understanding the nature of the goods at the site, so having someone that specialises in your industry and dangerous goods in general, and any hazardous area classification assessment, and then of course the architectural drawings that show how the building's put together, its height, floor area, and I guess any other intricacies, including site plans and the like. Basically, the more information you can give us, the more likely we are to be able to give you some definitive answers on what's likely to meet our requirements. And hopefully it will fill in any gaps with any assumptions, or assumptions won't need to be made. Well, thanks for the invitation, guys, and I guess our door's always open if you are proposing any works or want some information from us. So enjoy your evening.
Thank you.